This is a tutorial about picking up stitches for a neckband. To do this, there are two things I need to know. One is how many stitches that I need to pick up along each front. And for this particular size, I'm picking up 92 stitches. So I've just looked at my pattern for that. If you happen to have lengthened or shortened your pattern, just refer to the neckband stitch gauge, which will tell you how many stitches you need per inch or centimetre. So for example, for this particular pattern, the linen stitch gauge is 16 stitches per 10 centimetres. That means we'll be needing 1.6 stitches for every centimetre that we've increased the length by. Or alternatively, if you're working in inches, it's 4 stitches per inch. So if you've increased your pattern by, for example, 5 centimetres or 2 inches, you'll be adding an extra 8 stitches to each front. The next thing we're going to do is just measure the actual length of our front neck edge. So I'm just measuring this in centimetres, but you can do it in inches. And this measures 58 centimetres. I'm now just going to mark out 5 centimetre or 2 inch increments, and I'm going to use safety pins just to place a marker for every 5 centimetres. When you come to marking the opposite side, it's really important just to place a marker at exactly the same point along the colourwork, because then you can be sure that you're picking up the same number of stitches for each side and your colourwork is going to match up nicely. So we've marked out our 5 centimetre increments, and you'll see at the very top we've got 3 centimetres left over. Now we need to work out how many stitches to pick up for each 5 centimetres. To do that, we take the number of stitches, which is 92 for my size, but refer to your pattern for the number of stitches you need. And then we're going to divide it by the length that we've measured. And for me, that was 58 centimetres. If I take 92 stitches and divide it by the number of centimetres, I'll get the number of stitches per centimetre. So I've used a calculator and it works out at 1.6 stitches per centimetre. Obviously, if you're measuring this in inches, then you'll want to divide 92 by the number of inches you've measured, and then you'll get the number of stitches per inch. So for 5 centimetres, we're going to times 1.6 by 5. 1.6 times 5 is 8. So for each 5 centimetres, I'm going to be picking up 8 stitches, and then for the last 3 centimetres, I'll be picking up 4 stitches. So I'm going to pick up the stitches for the linen stitch neckband. I know that I need to fit 8 stitches between my markers. What I find most helpful is I place my thumb and forefinger at about the halfway point, and then I know that I just need to pick up 4 stitches over this distance. So we're going to start off just by looking at where we need to pick up our stitches, and you want to be placing your knitting needle between the first stitch and the second stitch. If you just pick up the very last leg of the stitch, sometimes you can end up with some holes along your neckband. So I like to go, rather than half a stitch in, I like to go a whole stitch in. So placing our needle between the first and second stitch, just wrap the yarn around the needle and pull it through. Like so. As I'm doing this, I'm just gauging where I need to be picking up my 4 stitches at. And then my next 4 stitches will take up the rest of the space between the markers. It's up to you whether you take the marker out now or not, but I like to leave my marker in just in case I end up undoing a bit because I haven't spaced my stitches out well enough and I want to rip it back and just start that section again. So I'm going to leave my marker in there. Okay, and so we'll pick up the rest of the stitches across the neckband, and I'll see you when we start to pick up the stitches across the back. So I've picked up my right front neck edge stitches. Now I need to pick up my stitches along the back. The easiest way to do this is to just identify your bind off stitches and just pick up your stitches by passing your needle under both legs of the bind off stitch. Like so. It's really important for this particular stitch that you end up with an even number of stitches, so just make sure you've picked up the correct amount across your back and front edges.